Okay, that's a light.
There's a handheld one.
That's what we want. How about power?
Should be 2 switches on the bottom.
There's 2 switches right below the LCD on the front.
Show him how, Jim.
Sorry about that.
Well, I guess I am the lucky one. The unlucky one. I get to go first. My name is Jeff Wood. A lot of you know me, some don't. I'm Christian, Illinois. Grew up there. Went to school there. I now live in Edgar County, Real Edgar County. My family, Chris, works in Charleston. We have 2 boys, Eli and Reese. I got into law enforcement in 1989. Went to work for the city police department. Worked there a year. Changed direction there. Out of it for a little bit. Went to work for the Edgar County Sheriff's Department, where I've been for 24 years now. A lot of you people probably don't realize I've been there because I worked nights for so long. You've never seen me, which is a good thing. I went to Academy in '89. Graduated towards the top of my class. Won several awards. Won graduation. Since then, I've been to several schools. I'm a certified law enforcement instructor, an NRA certified instructor, been on the dive team, DEA school for drug lab dismantlement. My time's up, so I'll let the next guy have it. Thank you.
My name's Dennis Gary. I was born and raised in Paris. Been in Edgar County most all my life, except for a short period of time, which I moved to work. A lot of people know me as Mayor of Brockton. I've been Brockton's mayor for 9.5 years out there, and I've been on the town council for 16.5 years. When I graduated Paris High School in '77, I went to Danville Junior College and studied what they called back in them days police science. I did not pursue the police career at that point. I decided to get married and have kids, and I've got 3 of my own kids and 2 stepkids and 3 grandkids right now. I worked for a short period of time as a Brockton police officer. Been always interested in law enforcement. I've been interested in the political side of everything, and I am what I am. I'm not somebody fancy. You're not going to find me out making speeches, but if you got questions, I will answer. I think I've been voted to be one of the most honest and open board members for board meetings that anyone's ever seen. Just don't be afraid to approach me. Thank you.
My name is Steve J. Kinney, and I am a candidate for the Sheriff of Edgar County. I was born on Bud Eads' farm, north of Paris. I have been married to my wife, Ann Patton, for 28 years and have 2 sons. In 1987, my dad passed away, and I had to decide what direction to go. Luckily, I was able to continue on farming with Mr. Eads for 26 years. After his passing last January, he ended up becoming my dear friend, confidant, and mentor. He has put me where I'm at today. I have decided to run for the office of sheriff because I'm ready for a new challenge. I hope I get the opportunity to represent you guys this year. Thank you.
My name is Roger Hopper. I'm one of your many candidates for Edgar County Sheriff. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I started my career in law enforcement in 1989 as a patrol officer, where I moved into investigations in 1991. There for a little while, and then in 2001 I went to Edgar County Sheriff's Department as a Drug Task Force Coordinator. As a Drug Task Force Coordinator, I basically taught different drug stuff to the different deputies in the municipalities around that area. I put on presentations, basically had investigations that would range from homicide to bicycle theft. I think as your sheriff, I have a lot that would help us do better as far as our investigation goes, as far as our jail goes, and I appreciate your vote.
I'm Shane St. Clair. I'm from Brockton. My wife Mary, we've been married 26 years, soon to be 27. Have one daughter, Courtney. I started my law enforcement career in 1982. I was in the U.S. Army Military Police, and I was there for 2 years, 2 months regular, and then I was in the reserves for 8 years, and I got out in 1984, the regular Army, was hired by Jack Hood as a corrections officer. From there, I also went to Kansas Police Department and was a patrol officer. When I left Kansas, I went to Arcola Police Department, and I was at Arcola for 2 years, and then I come back to work for Carl Farman Jr. as a road deputy. And I climbed the ranks of the sheriff's office all the way up to the chief deputy position, which I held for a little over 6 years. I retired in August of 2012, and I'm presently the chief of police at Newman, Illinois. And that's pretty much it. That's my career.
Good evening. My name is Edwin Motley. I am married. My wife's name is Nancy. We have 3 boys, Mark, Kurt, and Kyle. I'm a board member of the Paris Nazarene Church as a trustee. I served in the military, Vietnam era. I've been the sheriff for the past 3 years. I've also retired as a warden from the Federal Correctional Institution. I was a deputy commissioner for Indiana Department of Corrections. For the last 8 years, I've been an adjunct professor at Indiana State University in criminal justice. I've also was a jail inspector for ICE through the Nakamoto Group. Education, I have an associate's in liberal arts. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I have a certificate of management in correctional administration from Salve Regina University, and I also have my master's from Salve Regina University in management. I graduated from the PTI, Police Training Institute, and also from the National Sheriff's Institute. Local organizations, I'm part of the Paris VFW, Paris American Legion. I was a past president of the Paris Rotary Club. I'm a member of the Edgar County Sportsman's Club, Farm Bureau, and a lot of state and local organizations that I'm still a member of. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's really good to be here. Thank you all for coming. I know it was a tough choice, high school basketball or sheriffs. So thank you for coming out. Many of you probably know that I'm involved with the fitness center here in town, and we've had it about 13 years, but I've actually been helping people learn how to be safer and working with, thousands of people over the last 25 years. And it's been an honor. My wife, Kathy, and I have been very blessed, and we're happy to continue doing what we're doing. You may not know that I actually was a police officer, too. I was fortunate to work over in the Brockton area in the northwestern part of the county in 07, 08, part of 09. One of the high points of my life was when I was first in my class at the police academy. I was actually the oldest guy there, which is kind of cool. And, I've spent the last few years kind of looking around, and the reason I jumped into the sheriff's race is I just am not convinced we're doing all that we can do to help keep people in the community safer. And if you followed some of the things that I put out on YouTube, I've talked about 3 things. The first is I'm so concerned about patrol. I think we need to increase patrol, and I have some ways of doing that I don't think will cost anything. I think they'll be budget neutral. The second thing is I've really talked with a lot of teachers and principals, and I think we need to do more for the kids at school in terms of school safety and also education with drug and alcohol awareness. And then the third thing is I really am convinced that we can do a better job with the task force. And I'm dedicating myself to really focusing in on those 3 areas if I'm elected sheriff. Again, thanks for coming.
To the questions. The first question is a combination of several audience members. So hopefully I do justice to at least some of those contributions. That question is, what is the immediate future of drug crime in Edgar County, and should drug-related arrests be publicized more by the sheriff's office? Once again, Mr. Wood goes first on this question.
Yeah, I've been involved in some of the drug task force and drugs over the years. I would like to see a lot more work done towards drugs in Edgar County. I know they're more prevalent in the city, but they extend into the county. Drug offenders, move into the county for cooking their drugs. They steal from a residence. I would like to see maybe a little more the fines published, the people names and pictures published so we know who they are and make them public. Vehicle confiscations, vehicles going towards the sheriff's department or being sold to help fund the drug problem. It's a problem I don't think we'll ever completely get rid of, but I think we can do a lot to help slow it down and curtail it, and maybe force some of the drug people out of Edgar County. That's about it. Thanks.
I too agree. I think that the drug problem is increasing. I think that in a lot of the small towns that you'll see inside the county, there's a lot more drug problems there than anyone even really knows. Being a police officer in Brockton for a while, we've seen quite a bit of this. I do believe that publicizing the drug arrest is a necessary thing to know that people know we're doing something. And I think that's a major thing. But more than anything, I think a lot of things that we need to do is educate. We need to educate the people. We need to educate these kids. We need to educate them on the problems of what drugs do, and we need to educate you as neighbors on what to look for, what to let us know, so we know how to cope with the situation and take care of it. I do think that there can be a lot more done, a lot more patrol, a lot more investigations. I really do think that the drug problem is a major issue. So, thank you.
I do think we have a drug problem here in Edgar County. I think it needs to be followed up with law enforcement. It may take more manpower. I don't know, that'll have to be something decided through what budget situations allow. If there is people that have drug arrests, they should be publicized. And I feel like what is confiscated should be in a drug fund to apply to education or something to make this situation a little better. Thank you.
Well, obviously, we do have a drug problem in Edgar County. As a drug task force coordinator, I educated a lot of people, a lot of kids, a lot of churches, a lot of farmers on what to look for, firemen, police officers. You have to educate all of those people to know what to look for. You can't just react to it. You have to go out and have to battle it. One of the things that I suggest is getting back to the tip line, where people can call in and not fear that somebody's going to tell on them. That's been dropped by the wayside. There is a drug fund that's already in place that if you're arrested and you're fined, that does go into a drug fund, for that type situation. But one of the things that we need to do is quit just reacting to things. You know, if you're on a vehicle stop and you get a little bit of drugs on that, that's great. Yeah, that works, but it's not the overall cure. You know, you have to work these things, and you have to go out and you have to do investigations on them. You have to have your officers know what they're looking for. If they don't know what they're looking for, they can't do anything about it. And the community itself. You know, that's why I did presentations, so the community knew what to look for, the little things. You know, so I think if we can get back to where we were at and start educating and start working it, then I think that we'll be able to battle it.
Well, it's hard to follow what Roger just said because I worked with Roger so much on the drug task force. We went to school together. We did battle drugs in this county, and we both were involved in training not only the police but also the public in our problem. And I just think that we need to continue to battle it, as he said, and educate and be proactive. We need to use technology at the best we can. Again, budgets will be a factor. Cameras are nice. I would like to be able to use more cameras on these fertilizer plants. I know that the state is looking into passing more laws on restricting pseudoephedrine, and I believe that's a good thing. Along with a lot of the rest of you, I have a lot of allergy issues, and I hate to see that medicine go by the wayside, but if it has to, it has to. So, again, I ditto what Roger said. We need to educate the police and the public. Thank you.
A lot of good answers, but besides the answers that you just heard, we also have a problem with our criminal justice system. We sometimes lock folks up, we let them go. It's the same drug to person. We lock them up, we let them go. We lock them up, we let them go. True, we need to educate everybody, but we also need to put the people away who keep selling or buying drugs on the streets. I know that they say we're not doing much right now, but we are. I happen to have a chief deputy at one time who was from the VMEG unit. I hired him for that reason. He knows drugs. He saw it every day. I mean, we're in the job that he did, and I was glad to have him. We were pushing for more reform. The tip line, I understand, true, it went by the wayside, but we also got to have people demand things. If you don't have the resources, the money, we can't do a whole lot. I've also put more people on the patrol, and I know my patrol officers do a good job of what they're doing right now. But again, the big thing is to have resources, a little bit more manpower. I would love to have the drug task force start again, but again, I go back to resources. I need to pay somebody. I can't just take a patrol person off the road and make them the drug task person. Thank you.
Well, obviously, we need to publicize anytime we have a drug arrest, unless it's something that you're working to try to develop some intelligence and take it further, like Roger did with the task force. Immediate future, I don't think it looks that good, honestly. Did you know heroin's back in the community? I haven't been working in law enforcement for the last 5 years, but to have heroin back, I mean, well, we didn't have enough problems with cannabis and meth, now heroin's here too. So I personally think that our approach has to change. And I don't know if this is still the case, but as of a few weeks ago, I don't think we even have a full-time detective in the county. So we don't have a task force. We don't have a full-time detective. Personally, I'd work a shift. If that's what I had to do to free up the funds in the budget to have somebody working full-time on this drug problem, I would work a shift myself on patrol. I think it's that important. There's always a way, you know. We've had tight budgets in the different things I've done. I ran a radio station, tight budgets. The fitness center getting started, tight budget. And you find a way around that. You do what you have to do to make it happen. And we need to work more closely with the other agencies in our own county, the other chiefs of police. And we need to contact all the sheriffs around us and say, who do we have in common? I think we can do this, but we just have to focus on it, make it an effort. I'm convinced we can do it. I'm looking forward to the challenge. Thank you.
Mr. Carey gets the next question. Again, this question is for Mr. Carey first. Should public safety officers be responsible for school safety in Edgar County by providing security in every school building?
Well, that's a tough question. I do not believe that we have the funds or resources to be able to put an officer in every school throughout the entire county. It would be great if we did. I know I'd feel better if my kids were going to school with an officer, a school resource officer there. I think that we all should be responsible. Need to talk to your county board members about getting more money, if that's what you want, is an officer in every school, all day, every day. I really believe it would be a helpful thing, but I don't think that the money's there for that. Thank you.
It would be a very good idea to be able to do that. I don't think we have the manpower or the funds to situate a person or a man or a female at every school to watch over this. Thank you.
Well, like everyone says, yeah, that would be really nice. The only way I could really see to maybe make that happen is I'm wanting to try to get auxiliary up and running again. And I know the auxiliary is always looking for something to do. So you could probably get your auxiliary officers to maybe start going into your schools and start using them to their full potential. If I have auxiliary officers, I'd probably use them to do that. Thanks.
Again, it comes down to budget and manpower. I also agree. I don't think we have enough of either. I wish we did. The one thing I can say to that would be possibly having your patrol officers on patrol do a walkthrough occasionally. I do that at the Newman Grade School, and teachers and staff are glad to see it. And you also get to have a chat with the kids, and it goes well. So I think the approach to this would be just using what we've got and making it comfortable for the police officers to do the school walkthroughs, being we don't have the funds for it. Thank you.
It's true we don't have the resources. For the last 2 years, I keep putting in a grant for an SRO. We get turned down. They send the SRO to the northern schools, Chicago, Peoria. They get the officer, we don't, where we need it the most. Again, we're applying for it again. I hope we get it. If we do, that means we'll have one SRO, but it'll be for Shiloh. Paris has the Paris Police Department of Patrol, and what some people don't realize is that my officers right now, on day watch, travel through Crispin, they go through Shiloh, and walk through and say hello to the kids. They talk to the principal, they talk to the superintendent there. We do that. Again, it's on limited funds, but when they're out that way, they will talk to them. Kansas has a police chief, and we don't go there often, but we try to work with him. But again, he has his school. He goes through it every day. And again, with limited resources, that's what we try to do. Thank you.
Well, I think I may be the one that actually stirred up that question, because one of my proposals was, of course, we don't have money. Vigo County, I think, have decided to share the money between the county and the city to fund an officer in every school. That would be amazing. That would be awesome. Obviously, that's not going to happen. So you have to look for other ways of doing it. Roger had a good idea. Utilize auxiliaries. Personally, I think we're supposed to be on patrol anyway. So you should be out there. So for me, the policy of if you're not doing something else, if you're not, say, in an auto accident where you have to work it, continue to help people there, or maybe there's some other scene that you have to stay at, or maybe even court, you got to be in court. Well, assuming that you don't have any of those things to do, why not just make a policy of dropping by from time to time in the mornings and, like we've all said, go up and talk to the kids, talk to the parents, and just be visible. 75% of policing is just being seen. If you're there, that's a comfort to the people, and they get to know you, and they get to know that you care about their safety. And that could just be a policy for every officer. And granted, we've got police officers in Paris and Kansas and even in Crispin. But you know what? A lot of the people that go out to Crispin right here, you guys live in the county. And you pay county taxes too. So I think you deserve our coverage as well. So that's my goal, is to just be there, especially in the mornings. Just let them know you care.
Well, it would be great if we could put an officer in every school. I know Paris did have one at one time. I think it was rather successful, but the city of police is just like the sheriff's department. They lack manpower also. Maybe we can get fortunate enough to get grants to do such a thing. Just cross your fingers and keep applying for them. Like they said, auxiliary or part-time officers. Officers on their downtime going through the schools. But right now, that's probably the best we can hope for until things get better. Thank you.
This next question starts off with Mr. King. If elected, what administrative changes, if any, would you make in the Sheriff's Department?
If I was elected sheriff, it is an administrative job. I think what you need to do is get the dispatchers, the jailers, and everybody there on the same page. And then after that, I think the 911 coordinator needs to be at the jail. That's where that could be, if there is a problem or for a backup, she can fill in, or they can fill in, wherever that would be. But we got to get everybody on the same page. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I believe that if you take your resources that you have and you start cross-training people, say the jailer starts learning the dispatch job and dispatch starts learning jailer's job, and you start cross-training these people, it will help you a lot as far as your manpower goes and everything else. If your deputies start learning what the detectives do, and so on. So I believe if you start cross-training and teaching each one how to do each other's job, I think that you can get along with less manpower, but it'll stretch out further. Also, as far as being an administrative job, I don't think sheriff is an administrative job in a small community. I really don't. You have to get out there and you have to work. It's the same as everybody else. You can't just sit back in the office and it'd be nice if you could, but you can't. You have to get out there. You have to be able to get on the road and work a traffic accident if you have to, work a burglary if you have to. You can't just sit in the office and do that. Thanks.
I believe that the sheriff, other than the administrative duties, also in a small community needs to be on the road, as well as whoever he has for chief deputy. I am in agreement with the cross-training. We used to do that in years past, and it worked out well. Kind of got away from it, I think, and I think we need to go back to that. I am a firm believer in training, and I'd like to see all the people that work at the jail stay up with the times. And again, there's some budget issues. We have to try to find some money to pay for the folks to go to some of this training, but training is good, and it just educates our people to do the best job that they can do. Thank you.
I don't think there's any administrative changes right now that I would make. I know they talk about cross-training. Cross-training, I also have to follow a union rule, a union policy. There's unions in place that we have to adhere to. it's great to be able to take a person off and say, okay, you can go answer the phone for dispatch, or go to, for emergencies, they got to go for the 911 training. But yet, when you only have one or two people on, the one officer who is on by himself, who runs back and forth, up and down stairs, he's not going to have time to go in there and help dispatch. Dispatch, if they're busy, they're not going to have time to go over and help the officer. Right now, again, back to resources, it's great to have an extra body in there to handle some of the situations that we do have. Yesterday even, I had a bad situation. It could have been very serious because I only had one officer on, but say a dispatcher was cross-trained, then that person would have left. They would have been away from their desk. Now, we were there to help, but as far as being on the road, yes, I go on the road. Do I write tickets? Yes, I write tickets. Do I do accidents? Yes, we do those things. So I would not change too much right now until we have a better handle on our resources. Thanks.
Well, like I said earlier, I really think that you find a way to get it done even if budgets are tight. And you work closely with the county board to make the budget work for you. And I think I can do that. Some of the things I would do right away, it makes no sense to me having the 911 coordinator in the basement of the courthouse when they could actually be doubling up and helping in the jail. I'm not sure why they were moved. I don't know, but it just doesn't make sense to me. Other things I think we could do right away, I would bring back and expand the part-time deputy program. I got my start as a part-time officer. Typically, the part-time officers that work for you are going to be full-time officers somewhere else. So they're going to be well-trained, and they know what to do. But they'll work for you for less. So to me, it makes budget sense. So, and again, I don't know the actual numbers, but let's say you've got a part-time deputy that would work for $15 an hour, work a few hours a week. And then maybe by the time, and again, I don't know the actual numbers, so don't hold me to this, but let's just say for the sake of argument that it's $45 an hour by the time you pay a full-time deputy, time and a half or double time even if they're working a lot of extra hours. Benefits and contribution to pension, 45 versus 15. I think you can find a way to make it work in the budget. I would also bring back and expand the auxiliary deputy program. These are people that are going to help you out for free. For free. They just want to help. That's a no-brainer. That's easy.
At this time, I don't know whether there's any big changes. I would still be a working sheriff, be on patrol, different shifts. 911 does have a place in the jail, I believe. They have helped support it financially over the years. As far as employees, I do know that you're somewhat guided by union contracts, what you can and can't do, what other employees can and can't do. We have also had numerous employees in the past quit that have come back and would offer to work and fill in part-time positions. So I think using them, your part-time people, your auxiliary people, that things can keep being run smooth. A little help from the county board and a little extra money wouldn't hurt nothing either. Thank you.
I don't know of a lot of administrative changes that I would make either. I think we've got a good foundation here. I think it needs to be expanded. I do like the idea of the cross-training Roger brought up. I think that contracts with unions are just that. They're negotiated contracts. And if things need to be negotiated out to make it work, it needs to be made. And I believe that we have a bunch of good deputies right now. Good part-time deputies. We've had a lot of good part-time deputies in the past, and I think that we just need to get our heads together and decide what we're going to do. Thank you.
The fourth question was also a very popular one from entries coming from the audience. What is your opinion regarding an aging county jail and solutions to fund a new facility for the community?
Well, that has been going on for many, many years on trying to get a new jail, and it would be awesome to have a new jail. I mean, I think everybody agrees with that. But unfortunately, we don't have the funds to do that. So, in my mind, the only thing you can do at this moment is just try to work a little bit at a time, try to get your cell blocks up to where they're up to code, but work on one at a time. You can't try to solve all the problems at one time. You have to work a little bit at a time and move on to the next cell block and then the next cell block, and then have your corrections accountable for what happens to those cell blocks. A lot of times they get destroyed and everything, and no one ever does anything about it. They should be charged. If you have an inmate that tears up your cell block, then they should be charged for criminal damage. So you should have your cell blocks checked twice a day. Once in the morning, once in the evening, or if you let somebody out, you should go in and check and see if there's any damage done, and try to investigate and see if there is damage done on who did it, and if so, charge them and present that to the state's attorney. Right now we don't have the funds for a new jail, so let's just work on a little bit at a time and try to get it up to code and go from there.
Our jail is old, but it has a good foundation, and I believe that, again, it's hard to follow Roger, being that we work so long together, but we got the same ideas. Work on it a little bit at a time. There's good people in our community, and that's where I think our tax money needs to go, is to those people in our community, and fix it a little at a time to get it up to code. DOC comes in and inspects. They give us a report. They tell us what's wrong. In the past, we've always taken that report and worked on it to bring it up the best we could with what we had. Work with the county board, and they'll work with you. Thank you.
Sorry, before I answer, you said 18 something? The question, please, again?
It didn't contain any numbers, but what is your opinion regarding an aging county jail and solutions to fund a new facility if needed?
I thought I said 18. Okay. Again, back to the jail. We have a problem with the jail. I realize there's a good foundation. Those are some big limestone blocks. But when you walk around and see things falling apart, and you still try to repair it, you're only putting a Band-Aid on it. Down the road, we need to start thinking 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now, where are we going to get the funds? Where are we going to build a new jail? We're going to need it. I mean, I've gone in, I've painted before. The officers would go in and catch inmates destroying. We write instant reports. We turn them over to the state's attorney's office. We charge the inmates. Some things the state's attorney will not prosecute for, so we have to go ahead and do the restitution another way with them. But we do what we have to do with them. And again, we go back to the one officer checking the place daily. They do that. But you can't be every place at once. You go into a cell block, one person. It's not safe going into a block by yourself. Safety is paramount. We need protection for everybody in there. If I have to stand there with the officer while he goes in and inspects, fine, we do that. But again, the jail itself is aging. We need to have a plan in place. The county board needs to work with the sheriff needs to work with the county board. At one time, we were going to go to Colorado on a free trip by the government to start planning. They're not saying you plan tomorrow, start building tomorrow. You start at the ground and work your way toward it. But again, a little bit of money that I do have, we do fix. Thank you.
Well, I think this is a problem that's going on not just during this administration, but for several administrations and multiple terms. It's kind of like sometimes something is so big, you almost hate to look at it because it reminds you how tough it's going to be, so you tend to ignore it. And I give Sheriff Motley a lot of credit for bringing this out 3 years ago to the awareness of the public. The thing that I don't understand, however, is how we had a list of things that needed to be done 3 years ago. And to me, it comes down to managing. I've got things going on all the time. A furnace, a leaky roof. I'm sure it's not as bad as it is there. But sometimes you're a little proactive and you recognize that we need to fix this now because it's going to be really bad if we don't. But other times you just prioritize. You say, okay, what's maybe the easiest thing to fix? And you fix it. You go to the county board and say, we've got to fix this. And here's my list of the next 5 things we have to fix. Let's find a way of working together to get the funds appropriated to fix it. And let's fix it, one thing at a time. Do we need to plan for the future? Sure. I think that would take, I don't know, quite a few years. I don't think the next term you would even have plans developed to build a new jail. But if you're thinking maybe 8 years, 12 years from now, let's start here. What's the first step? What's the next step? And let's just get started.
Well, I think right now, Edgar County's got one big project going on with the school, so I think that's probably going to put a hold on the new jail for a while. The jail didn't go to pieces overnight. It won't be repaired overnight. It's going to take a lot of time. I would like to think maybe down the road that the new facilities could be built somewhere. It may be a year, it may be 10 years. Unlike some of the other guys, I agree that there should be some prisoner accountability. They tear it up, they should be responsible for fixing it. Granted, it's not to Hilton, but them staying there is their option, not ours. If they don't like it, they don't have to come back. Thank you.
Well, I totally agree. We need to do something with our jail. I've read every inspection report I could find from 2006, and I don't see where there's any structural problem with this jail on the outside. It's all inside. It needs plumbing, it needs electrical, it needs locks, it needs paint. All this can be accomplished. If our economy was the best it's ever been right now, I would say let's build a new jail. Yeah, we need it, but it's not. We live in a real world, and I don't think this county can afford a whole lot more taxes for a new jail. It takes millions of dollars to build a jail. It takes several $100,000 to repair one. It's a big difference. I do think the prisoners need to be held accountable. I do think they need to be charged. But that's not the sheriff's job. That is the state's attorney's job. And I think that this did not occur overnight. It's not Mr. Motley's fault, not Mr. Krippus's fault. It has occurred over years. And that's just the way it is. So we need to roll up our sleeves and get in there and paint together if we have to. We need to find the money, find grants. We need to talk with the county board, negotiate with them. Maybe we can repair the jail instead of build a new bridge somewhere or something. I don't know what that answer would be, but I know there are solutions out there. Thank you.
I pretty much agree with about everything that's been said here on the jail, but I still think we've got to fix it and make it work for as long as we can, because like I say, it did take time for it to go down. I think it can be brought up to snuff with local people here that can do the work and try to make the best of the situation and follow up with there. Thank you.
The next question is for Mr. St. Clair first. As Edgar County Sheriff, in what ways would you strive to maintain and advance relationships with the county board? I can repeat the question. As Edgar County Sheriff, in what ways would you strive to maintain and advance relationships with the county board?
Well, that's a hard question. Everybody has their own ideas. As police chief at Newman, I work with the city board. I've also been mayor of Brockton. I've been on the Brockton board. I've been a fireman, so I've been included in with helping the trustees years ago. And as a community, we just need to come together and bring our thoughts together and bring our budget together as best we can. We all just have to get along, and we have to put our heads together and make a solution for whatever the issue is. And that's pretty much it. We're all people. We all live in the same community. We need to work together.
Anybody knows the county board better than I. I agree. We have to work together. It's like a family. You know, we can agree to disagree all day long, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to come up with a good solution that benefits the county and not each other. Thank you.
Well, it seems to me that the people on the county board are elected just like the sheriff. So you guys are really in charge of what gets done through your vote. And I don't know them all personally. I think I know a couple of them in passing. But I can tell you this, I've worked with thousands of people over the last 25 years, and there's hardly anyone I wasn't able to work with. To me, it seems like if you got people that are elected, they're wanting to do a good job for you guys. They may have their own ideas of how to do it or what needs to be done. But we'd want to do a good job for you as well. So what you have to do is you just sit down and say, this is what I think is important, and they're going to tell you what they think is important. Let's start by saying, well, what do we have in common? What's maybe the first thing that we can do together? And get it done. And then you move on to the next thing. Again, it comes down to prioritizing. Let's make a list. We know we need to do this. We know we need to do this. We know we need to do this. Okay, so next year, we're going to accomplish those three things. And you find a way to get it done. In my experience, there's always a way to get it done if you want to get it done badly enough. So I think I can work with the board. I think we can get some of these things done.
Well, I think for the most part, board, just like the rest of us, they're citizens of Baker County and in the end want to do what's best. Worked with a few of the board members on using union negotiations and 2 or 3 other things. I've worked in other boards and other organizations. Granted, everybody don't agree or see eye to eye, but eventually everybody comes to an agreement. In our case, hopefully it's for the good. Just try to do the best we can, and like I said, you people vote for the board also, so you also have a say in this. Thank you.
Well, I believe that the county board is made up of a bunch of good people, honestly. I think everyone has the same ideas, the same direction. And I think they can be negotiated with. The fact is, I have worked with the county board. Being mayor of Brockton, I've actually worked on a couple drainage projects with the county board, and they're good people. And I think that you just need to talk with them with that attitude. And everyone wants to be treated like an individual and human being. No one wants to be browbeat. And I think that's where it starts. We all talk like we're neighbors. Thank you.
Basically, you're just going to have to sit down with each other, the county board and the sheriff, and try to decide what you've got to work with, how far you can take it, and try to benefit as many as possible, and do the best you can. Thank you.
Well, we have to get past the blame game. You know, we have to get past it's his fault or it's their fault, whatever. And we have to sit down and we have to communicate and we have to basically, you know, what is the betterment for the community? You know, what's it going to take to make this work and get past it's my way or the highway? You know, and that's on both sides, the sheriff's side or the board side. You know, you guys, we all have to come together, sit down and say what is the best for our community and work on that.
Mr. Miley will start off the next question, number 6. With the recent passing of conceal and carry in Illinois, how does that change the Sheriff's Department's policy, or in your opinion, how should it change, in procedural matters such as traffic stops, delivery of warrants, and general department practices?
I'm sorry again, the last part, please.
Procedural matters such as traffic stops, delivery of warrants, and general department practices.
First of all, the Second Amendment right allows people to carry now, and I'm in full favor of that. The officer needs to be very careful, very vigilant on traffic stops the way they're doing now. They need to be vigilant when they go to a house for a warrant. Hopefully we'll be able to have backup with them. Again, we have to be very careful about what we do. Our safety is important. Your safety is important to us. So that everybody can sit. And there's so many different rules now with carry conceal. I was just reading it today. The things that you can and cannot do, places you can go and you cannot go. So we're going to have to be on the lookout for that. People going to church, people going to bar, people going to school, crossing the playground. The officer's going to have to be very vigilant in what he does. So procedural changes for me, changes in the office, new policies are going to have to be written to make those changes. Thank you.
Well, it seemed like you dragged Illinois kicking and screaming. We were the 50th state, I believe, to finally get concealed carry. When I was a police officer, I was fortunate enough to actually go to school and become a trained police firearms instructor. And I'm a big proponent of CCW. I don't really think that the problem that you have is with people that are carrying illegal firearms. I think the problem you have is with people that are breaking the law. Like the sheriff says, you have to be vigilant, but I think you always had to be vigilant because that was always a danger. And frankly, I'm much more worried about the person that doesn't have one of those nice, looks just like a driver's license, a nice new concealed carry weapon card. These are people that play by the rules. Our biggest concern is the people that don't play by the rules. So of course we're going to have to always be careful. Safety is the number one thing for the officer. They've got to go home that night. And they have to be effective in protecting the people that made the call for help. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that Illinois finally joined the 21st century. What we need to do maybe is come up with some policies to help these people have better training. If I have an argument with concealed carry, it's that the training standards kind of minimal. I would like to see them be better trained. The more training, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank goodness for the Second Amendment. From a law enforcement point of view, I'm glad to see concealed carry. I know over the years, law enforcement's the same old thing. You're walking up to somebody that never carries a weapon. So now, knowing that everyone will have a weapon, I think that law enforcement will step up your awareness a little bit, maybe be on guard a little more. And on the other hand, the next guy that thinks he's going to carjack somebody, maybe he'll think twice before he does it. I believe in a person's right to protect himself and his family, but there is a limit to where you can go with that protection. I just hope people learn the rules, read the rules. We need to learn a lot about it. I know I'm still kind of in the dark about some of it. I try to keep up on it. But right now I think it's a good thing, and I hope it works out for the good. Thank you.
I personally support the Second Amendment. I think concealed carry is a very good tool. Like Tom, I'm not so much worried about the ones carrying with the card, with the permit, as the one that's been carrying forever for the wrong reasons. That's what we need to worry about. Police officers are trained on signals. They look to see what people do, their movements, the way they act, the way things are done when they make vehicle stops. And a lot of the decisions that they make in the field are based on those signals that people put off. And I really think that this is a good thing for America. I think it's a good thing for Illinois. And I think it'll be a good thing for every county. Thank you.
Basically, I feel the same as what these candidates have said. I'm for conceal and carry. But I do think at some point in time there's going to have to be a way for an officer or an individual to ask if they are carrying a gun on a traffic stop or in a
family situation or an episode, and I feel like they should have to identify what it takes for them to do that. I don't know what the law is going to say, but I think it should be identified that they do have a gun in their possession. Thank you.
Well, like everyone else said, I do agree in concealed carry. But, as a police officer or past police officer, I assume everyone has some form of weapon on them. If I make a vehicle stop, I assume something, might be there. I mean, the one time you don't is one time you don't go home. So every time I assume that, and I'm cautious I don't go overboard, but I'm cautious on what I do. As far as concealed carry goes, you can ask somebody if they have something on them, if you think that they do, and they can provide the documentation that it needs to carry. If they don't have anything like that, then you go ahead and you deal with it with what the law says you get to do. It's pretty simple. I don't think it's rocket science. It's something that you just deal with, like we do every law that comes out. Thank you.
Well, being a police officer now, I just go with my training, and when you approach people, as the rest have said, you're aware, and you follow your training standards and procedures. With the new concealed carry, obviously there's going to be more guns out on the street. Hopefully those folks abide by what they're trained at and keep them out of the businesses and places they're not to be. I'm sure in the beginning we're going to have some goofs, and hopefully we can correct that. It's like anything. It's all in the knowledge that people have, so training is the issue and awareness. Thank you.
Question number 7 is for Mr. Miller first. Edgar County, like many rural counties, face challenges that come with growth and increased technology. As sheriff, how would you implement policy to both encourage economic growth and technology while recognizing and preserving the traditional rural lifestyle for future generations?
Wow. You mind repeating that one more time for me, sir?
Edgar County, like many rural counties, face challenges that would come with growth and increased technology. As sheriff, how would you implement policy to both encourage economic growth and technology while recognizing and preserving the traditional rural lifestyle for future generations?
Okay. Well, it seems to me the question was pointed at technology at large, not in the departments themselves. Because I'm all for increasing technology, even in the SWAT car, writing grants to get more laptop computers, better, smaller cameras, that kind of thing. But the community at large, I think it comes down to, why do people move to a community? What do you want? You want school. You want to be safe. You want opportunities for recreation. You want all the different things we probably all want. Well, school, check. They're building one. That's cool. Got a new school coming. A lot of recreational opportunities around. I provide one. As far as the safety of the community, though, if I had any one thing that I could do, and I'm not sure it answers the question, to be honest with you, because I'm still not sure I quite understand it, or how it would apply. But I can tell you this, my focus would be safety, number one. I just think we can do a better job with the people that are coming into the communities, I know personally, a lot of people have chosen not to live here, and instead they commute from Marshall or Terre Haute even. And one of the reasons is they felt like their kids weren't safe at school. So to me, it always comes back to safety. And what can we do? I can tell you this isn't super technological, but I'd love to go to the schools and help them with seminars and assemblies to help them know more about drug and alcohol abuse. I know the kids learn a lot in grammar school, but after that, I don't think they're getting much. So that's going to be my focus.
I'm a little bewildered on this one myself, but technology-wise, yeah, there's some things we need to do. I'd like to set up some more systems, communication systems better. As far as growth, I'm not sure how the Sheriff's Department has a lot of effect on the growth of the community. Safety-wise, I think there's people who probably do move to Edgar County and stay in Edgar County. Granted, there could be more law enforcement out there, but for the most part, I think it's a pretty safe place to be. Edgar County slowly grows, and with that growth comes a little more taxes. With that taxes comes a little bit more money for us, so we can better ourselves. I'm hoping that's the answer he's looking for. Thank you.
Well, I too am bewildered by the question, so I don't know. Technology is a big thing. I'm a technology person in my personal life. I believe in computers. I've got several computers at home. I think that possibly the answer that they're looking for may be the cyber crimes that are going on. Cyber crimes is a big thing, and I'm not sure that our Sheriff's Department right now has anyone trained in cyber crimes. I don't know. I think that without technology, we do not grow. And I think with growth, there's always problems, and there's always ways to combat them problems, and we just need to be better educated and do what we can. I hope that answers.
I don't feel I can honestly answer that question right now, so I'm going to pass on that thing.
Well, like everyone else said, I believe that you need to have better technology within your sheriff's department. As far as the public goes, I'm a little confused on that question. As far as, like Dennis said, cybercrime, I have been to 2 classes for cybercrime, so I can deal with that. I'm not really sure, as far as the community goes, how I can really answer that question. So.
As the rest have stated, I'm not quite sure what they're looking for in this. But as far as the police go, I believe in having in-car cameras. I believe in having in-car computers. Cell phones go a long way. I'm glad that we have the law to use the Bluetooth now to make our roads safer. They're coming out with training in the near future that's a little bit better as far as training police officers on multitasking in the vehicle. Some of you may have seen that on the Channel 3 news the other night. As far as the public's concerned, most everybody has computers now or cell phones, and the issues with identity theft are a big issue. And again, like I believe Roger said, I've been through several classes on cyber crimes through the state training board. So we just have to keep training and learning and trying to keep up with the times as police officers to make you all safe out there. And the last thing I have to say on it is use your Bluetooth.
I believe in technology. I've already installed a new software program to make it a little bit easier for the officers, for the inmates even, to order commissary now. It's easier for us to do booking. The officers now can write reports. They don't have these little dots in them anymore. It's actually a decent looking report when they're done. But everything's integrated. I'm happy also to say that State Farm has just donated 8 new laptops to me so that we can put them in our cars. Next thing is to get the grant for our camera system, which we are writing right now. There's our grants out there. But technology is great. I love it. And that's why, for safety purposes, that's what we need. Now, as far as the economic goes, if I understand the question right, for us, the sheriff's department cannot make it grow, I don't think economically, but when you have people want to move here, you have to allow them to grow. You want them to be able to spend their money here. You want them to use your schools, but you got to attract them. If they want to take a leadership role here in the community, you need to allow it. Just because they came from another state or another town, you need to let them help you grow. Thank you.
I'd like to spend a little bit of time answering 2 more questions to the field of candidates. And I think for one question, we'll just make my life easier, we'll start from the far left and go this way. And for the second question, we'll start from the far right, my right, and go this way. These 2 questions are from the audience. First one, and Mr. Kinney, we'll start with this one. What is your stance on stand your ground legislation?
Well, I guess I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I can answer that right now because I ain't thought hard enough on that. Thank you.
Well, I guess in some ways I agree with stand your ground. As far as when you feel like you have no other choice, I think you should be able to defend yourself. I don't know if I would agree with Florida's version of stand your ground, but I believe that you should be able to stand your ground, defend yourself, and be able to do that. So, thank you.
Well, I'm not real familiar with stand your ground legislation. So at this time, I really can't say a whole lot about it due to my lack of knowledge of it. Thank you.
Again, as Jeff said, I'm not real familiar with the legislation, but what I am getting the gist of this is you have the right to protect your families, and you have the right to your Second Amendment rights, and that's pretty much what I can say on that. I don't really know. Thank you.
So one time I have to agree with Roger as far as the stand your ground with protecting yourself in your home, in your car, protect your family. But outright, just if someone comes up to you and you need to protect yourself, I think we have a right to do that. But I hope that it doesn't escalate to that point. Other than that, again, you have a right to protect yourself, your family, your home. But just to be like Florida, I don't know what will happen there. So, thank you.
Well, I too am not real familiar with stand your ground legislation, but I do think that everyone should have the right to protect themselves and their family. I think that's the most crucial thing that there is out there. Your family, yourself, your family first. I'd like to know more about it, but at this time I really don't. Thank you.
Well, I guess over the years, a lot of people have called me a self-defense expert, and I can tell you this. Everybody, like Dennis and about everybody up here said, everyone has the right to be safe. You have the right to protect yourself. The issue there is, do you have to retreat before you start defending yourself? And now, what I can say is that sometimes you need to retreat, whether you have a right to or not, or whether you should. Sometimes it just makes sense. Retreating might prevent harm. But if law is going to say that you don't have to retreat, that doesn't mean that the wisest thing to do at that moment is to stand your ground and, come on, let's fight. I mean, sometimes the smart thing to do is walk away. And we've taught people that for many, many years. I think that the fact that we're now a concealed carry state, that's going to interact closely with the stand your ground thing. And the other thing I guess I can say, and while I don't know much about it, I think that there aren't that many differences between a stand your ground state and the rest of us. Because every state in the nation says you have the right to defend yourself. I think the issue is, do you have to retreat if you feel threatened or not? Personally, sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes you got to stand your ground. You have no choice.
Last question of the evening. Once again, Mr. Dolan will start and then move this way. And again from the audience. With the rising rates of autism and other mental health issues in our nation and community, what measures will you take to train your deputies and staff in handling a situation involving a special needs person?
Well, that's a good one. You know, the first thing I thought of was the little boy in Brockton that we found wandering around in the middle of the road. And this boy had some special needs, and I didn't have any special training at that time. It just was obvious to me that this boy isn't going home after school when he was dropped off from the bus. It made sense. Let's investigate this. Let's get this boy home. I've got a 3-year-old now, and I have 4 grandchildren, and all of a sudden I'm a daddy again. 51. I guess that's a little old, but you know what? I'm trying to stay up with this 3-year-old. He'll be 3.5 next month. And it's really caused me to think a lot more about kids. I think I'd gone through my thinking about kids because my kids have kids. But now I've got another 3-year-old. So you know what, Pam, when I see your posts about autism, and any chance I get to learn something, I'm going to take it. I think that's just common sense. As an officer, whatever information is available, I'm going to try to absorb it and make sure that all of our officers have it too. Because we have to protect the kids. It just makes sense.
Well, I totally agree. I've got a few friends with some special need children, and I think it would be great to have our officers trained with at least a basic concept of how to deal with different needs. A lot of these special needs children are nonverbal. A lot of times you don't understand what they're trying to do or what they're trying to get across. And it would be nice if they had at least a basic concept of how to get someone there to help them, or how to calm them, or whatever it takes. A lot of times they just need to be hugged, for no lack of a better way of doing it. I mean, there's just things that we need to do as individuals, human beings, to take care of one another. We're out there for each other. So, thank you.
I believe it all comes down to training. Training officers training our correctional officers in case someone gets arrested and they're brought into the jail. But I like to even take it further when it comes to training with the mental health people. I mean, we have mental health, we have the elderly. We all need, as officers, need to be able to train ourselves, each other, to be able to handle this types of individuals. The autism is a little different, the mental health is going to be different. Even the aging with an Alzheimer's person walking off. They can get violent with you. So again, it boils down to training, and I hope that we'll be able to do more training in this area. Thank you.
As Mr. Motley said, I believe it is in the training. The state training board does put on training for both corrections and road officers. And I've just always, in my over 30 years of dealing with the public, I believe in treating somebody like you want to be treated. Again, each situation dictates a different position on what you need to be doing. But again, it all falls back on training and compassion for your public. Thank you.
Well, mental health and autism issues like that have always been a problem. 25 years ago, we dealt with it. You didn't have the training then that's available now for these types of situations. We always kind of had to wing it. Today, there is a lot of classes offered. Probably don't get as many as we need to. They're online. There are several events, week-long events, so the training is out there. There is also more of it. A lot of children, parents have had problems, drug issue, alcohol issues, mental health. all kind of things. We do see a lot more. So, but even being prepared the best, you still have to wing it sometimes because the unexpected happens. So, a lot of training and a little common sense. Most of it, I think we can get through everything. If there is a need arises, that sometimes you kind of like the concealed carry, you got to back off and retreat, maybe get some help, try to make the best of it, and don't let the situation get any worse. Thank you.
Well, like the other candidate said, I think a lot of it's in the training. I talked to Pam the other day, and I went home and I read up on it, because I really didn't have a whole lot of knowledge on there, and I learned a lot by doing that. And I believe that, we all should train on different things like that, and, that way it makes us better officers. We treat people better than what we would normally. If we understand what's going on, then we're able to deal with it. Thank you.
I pretty much agree with whatever these candidates have said on this. I think training would be very important, but the department's there to serve and protect, and this issue would fall under serving. You're going to have to do the best you can with that situation, with the training you got, and hopefully the situation works out the best. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes tonight's Sheriff's Forum. Once again, primary date is March 18th. If you, an audience member, did not get a chance to have your question answered, I'm sure the candidates will stick around for a few minutes. Feel free to come on up, introduce yourself, and ask the question if I didn't get a chance to ask that question. I'd like to thank the candidates for making time, all the candidates, making time